start the recording and then read the last part. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers to allow parents to be informed about many possible ways to heal, to connect with their children, and to learn about the afterlife. The views expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect those of Helping Parents Heal, and we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally. So let's go on to Irene's bio. And Irene, as you all know, is a very close friend. She is our vice president. She's the chair of our conference. She is also the affiliate leader of Hilton Head Bluffton, and she's been doing this chat room with Kathy for quite some time now. And I feel very fortunate to call her one of my best friends. And so I'll just read her bio very quickly so you know a little bit more about her beautiful daughter, Carly. I lost my best friend, my only child, my beautiful 24-year-old daughter, Carly Elizabeth Hughes, to esophageal gastric cancer on February 17, 2013. Like so many of us who have experienced this devastating loss, my daughter's passing sent me on a spiritual quest. I have found friends and comfort through this remarkable group, Helping Parents Heal. In the short time since Carly's passing, I have had definite proof that consciousness survives physical death, that Carly is well and with me always. I have been fortunate to speak with mediums who were able to provide absolute evidence of the afterlife, indisputable information relayed, bringing comfort and helping to lighten the heavy weight of grief. With family and Carly's friends, we have created a foundation in her honor, Carly's Kids, a foundation for education. I hope you will take the time to read about us and what we are doing in Carly's memory. Visit www.carlyskidsfoundation.com. I have to also say that tomorrow is Irene's birthday, and she's doing a fundraiser for Helping Parents Heal on her birthday. So if you guys are interested in possibly donating to Helping Parents Heal to help us with all these Zoom meetings and everything else that we're doing, please go to her birthday. And without further ado, please welcome Irene Vouvalides.
Thanks, Elizabeth. It's such an honor to be here with everyone tonight. And I wasn't sure, Elizabeth, if you wanted to play that video clip in the beginning or if you...
I do. I'm going to go ahead and play it. I thought maybe you could just say a few lines and then I'll find it, share my screen.
Yeah, it's just such an honor to be with everyone tonight. I just love this group. I love all of you, and I'm just so blessed. And I just want to share the magic with everyone and let everyone know that our kids are fine. They're with us always, and it's possible to heal and to be happy.
That's beautiful. Let me just see if I can figure this out, because for some reason it didn't save onto my desktop. So let's see, here we go. I know I can do this though. Let me just figure it out. I thought I knew what I was doing, Irene. How about if you go ahead and talk a little bit more and I will figure this out. Am I blocking the screen as I do this or not?
No, you're not.
Oh, wait. Here we go. I think I've got it. Okay. Let's see. Sorry about that. Darn it. I just did this, so you would think that it would be easy for me to do it now. I am so sorry about that. Let's see. Blog it, edit, Tumblr. Okay. Here we go. And then let me see if I can do this now. Go back to share screen. Won't let me back there now. Okay. Let's see. No, I'm sorry, Irene, let's see.
No problem. No problem.
Okay, go ahead, and then I'm hoping, let's see, to be able to do the, oh, here we go, I'm getting out of that. Share screen. Yes, I got it. Okay, so, and then here we go.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Geisman. Today I'm going to share with you 2 video clips that show the healing power of connecting with those on the other side. In this first clip, you're going to see a segment of a presentation I gave as a keynote speaker at the annual conference of the International Association of Near-Death Studies. I'll let the video speak for itself, and then I'll come back and introduce the second part. Enjoy. Irene Vouvalides. Where are you, Irene? Right here in our midst. This lovely woman lost her beautiful daughter, Carly, who you see here. I just had the pleasure of hugging Irene for the first time because we'd never met. Her reading was done over the telephone. She contacted me by email and told me how desperate she was to hear from her daughter. So got her on the phone, have never seen a picture of her, knew nothing, but right away after inviting in her daughter, I felt this presence. And I said, now I'm sensing blonde hair, and I have to tell you, this personality just feels so pure to me. This is somebody that just loved her. It's like her heart was overflowing, and the tears are flowing already. It's okay. And I said, there's something about a teacher with her. And Irene confirmed that she had a teaching degree, but she wasn't acting as a teacher. And I said, well, she must have been involved with some kind of a racially inclusive school system, because I've never seen this before, but I see her hugging little Black children. These are photos that Irene sent me later. And right after the reading, I immediately got online and looked up the foundation that Irene said they started in Carly's name. And when I saw the banner from that website for Carly's kids, look at her hugging these Black children. I thought, it's a good thing that I know that I have integrity, because anybody else could just say, well, you Googled her beforehand. And I would never do that, because it would take away the sacredness of being able to say, why is she showing me hugging little Black children? It's because she worked to support the oldest African-American Catholic school in the Mississippi Valley. So I knew we had a good connection. And I'll just share just a few of the things that Carly showed me. She said, she showed me a teddy bear, and she said, my mom is hugging it. And Irene confirmed that Carly had this teddy bear shown here since the day she was born, slept with it every night, and now Irene holds it and smells that teddy bear to get her daughter's scent. I said, well, Irene, Carly's showing me a ring that you wear on your right hand, and it was hers. Here's a picture of Irene's hand with that ring on it. I said, there's something about a mountain with a K sound to it. She said her boyfriend was hiking, climbing Mount Kilimanjaro when Carly passed. Wow. So the one thing I knew going into this reading was that Carly passed of esophageal cancer, the youngest known case on record. 22, right? 23, 24. Well, during that session, I got some physical symptoms myself that confused me, but I reported I'm getting very dizzy. So she had some kind of dizziness, and there's something about clotting going on here. And then she says she just bled out. And unfortunately, that is what happened at the end. She fainted into her mother's arms, and she did have a clotting problem, and she bled out. I said, your daughter is talking about the Bible. But wait, it just changed from a Bible to a different book. And Irene said, it's my Bible. It's George Anderson's Walking in the Garden of Souls. I carry it with me always, and I call it my Bible. And I said, well, listen, I've autographed many, many books, and I always autograph them on the right side when you open the front page. But Carly is saying this one is autographed on the left side. And sure enough, it was. See what I mean by evidence? is just awesome. And what's really cool is Irene had said going into the reading, Carly, I'll really know you're here if you talk about my Bible, which is really cool. So that reading was beautiful, especially afterwards when Irene said, sleep comes easily now, and insomnia had been a problem. And then she felt for the first time since her daughter passed the way she used to feel in her presence. That's what this work is all about. The day after I gave that talk, I felt a nudge to offer Irene.
So, stopping the
Do you
share.
believe somebody
Whoops.
could be trained potentially to sense information, not by reading a book? but
Okay,
by
sorry
touching
about
a book?
that. Am I sharing anymore?
I have a crazy story
No,
to
you're not,
share
but
with you.
there's some-
Okay.
In my book, The Code of the Extraordinary Mind, I shared this story to some degree, but the story is so wild. I
This
didn't
is
go
crazy.
into the full story.
Okay, I've muted Elizabeth, and I'm going to go ahead and talk. And it was important for me to share that video so that those of you that haven't seen pictures of Carly or don't know Carly could get to see a little bit about her. She was just an incredible girl. She still is. Kind, smart. She was a lover of animals, friend to everyone. It was so much fun when we were going about her college choices, and she was offered a scholarship at the University of Richmond, and we did a great college tour. And when we were done and sat in the office and they said, okay, Carly, we're hoping you'll sign on today. And she said, I'm so sorry, I couldn't possibly go to your school. And they said, why not? And she said, well, your mascot is a spider, and I could never go to a school where a mascot was a spider and I would wear a spider on my sweatshirt. So she didn't go to the University of Richmond, and loved to say that the ultimate decision for choosing Boston College was that it was a 10-minute cab ride to a Bloomingdale's. My girl was quite the shopper. She loved Boston College and really thrived, and it was just a magical time for her and for me as well. She led service trips to the school in Mississippi that you saw, Holy Family. And she came home from one of those trips and told me, Mom, I know what I want to do. One day I'd love to teach at Holy Family. And unfortunately, that never came to be. And that's one of the reasons that we are now supporting this school. And we've actually helped to keep it alive for the past 7 years, which is quite an accomplishment. I always had the feeling that Carly was not going to be mine for a long period of time. And a lot of people said, well, she was your only child and, you just worried about her. And a friend reminded me at her memorial service, when Carly was 4 years old, I said to her, if Carly's no longer here, will I still be a mother? And I guess I just always had that feeling that she wasn't meant to be on this earth for a long period of time. When she graduated college, I turned to my husband, who was not Carly's dad, and I said, I was so wrong. Look, she graduated college, she's fine. All those years of worrying. Less than a year later, symptoms developed that no one could figure out. She was diagnosed with esophageal gastric cancer, and 4 months later, she was gone. It was just a shock. It was a horrible time in my life, of course, watching your child suffer. Those of you that have had children pass from a disease, I don't need to tell you, there's nothing worse. No bargaining with God can keep them on this earth if they aren't meant to be. And I just went into the deepest, darkest place that anyone could ever go. And my sister kept me on this earth and kept me alive and absorbed my grief and helped me so much. We would have conversations and she would say, let's pretend that Carly's in Australia doing a semester abroad and we can't talk with her. Anything to try to just get out of that unthinkable place in my mind. I literally did not want to be here. And my mantra became, Tony can't be twice widowed. My husband's first wife passed away. About 3 months after Carly passed, I had a friend go to Hawaii on vacation, and she came home with a gift for me from a woman who's now one of my dearest friends, Beth D'Angelo. And Beth wrote a letter to me and sent a bracelet, beautiful angel bracelet, with a note. And it was like someone had thrown a life preserver to me. And I wasn't able to swim yet, but I was able to hold on, and I had some hope. And I thought, if Beth can do this, then I think I can do this also. I started on my journey researching the afterlife, like so many of us have. And my first book was Dr. Eben Alexander's book, Proof of Heaven, which many of you have read, and a lot of us, it's brought a lot of comfort to. And I thought, okay, maybe I can do this. And I went on a quest to find Carly. I knew she was there, that the love I had for her could never die. And I was researching one night and came across Dr. Gary Schwartz did an HBO special called the Afterlife Experiments. And he had some mediums on it, and this was done in the early 90s. George Anderson, Suzanne Northrup, John Edward, Laurie Campbell, and Ann Gaiman. And after watching that video, I knew that I was going to have a reading with one of those mediums. And I scheduled a reading with George Anderson, who lived in the Northeast where I did. My sister and I ventured to Long Island about 7 months after Carly passed. And I set my intention to just want to find out that Carly was okay when she passed and that she wasn't frightened. When we sat with George, within a few minutes, he knew that I had a daughter that had passed, and he told me to stop obsessing about her passing, that she said it was as easy as walking through a doorway. And that just changed it all for me. He went on with amazing validations that even if you said, well, he could Google you, he could look up your name. He talked about my mom, that my mom was there for Carly, and that Carly was a little confused, and that my mom told her she was fine. And Carly relayed, she said, Grandma, am I dead? And my mother said to her, no, honey, you're very much alive. Just come with me. He went on to talk about my mother calling my sister and I her girls, which she did. He also spoke of, and this was really funny, my sister and I had a step grandmother when my maternal grandfather passed. Grandmother passed, my grandfather remarried, and he married a woman named Emma. And we didn't really like Emma, and she wasn't very kind. And Emma went on to be what you would call maybe the wicked grandmother. And when my grandfather passed, she ended up taking almost all of my grandmother's possessions, and my mom wasn't able to get anything. And Emma came through in this reading, and George Anderson said, there's a woman here named Emma, and she's apologizing for her behavior. She was terrible. And that was just amazing. No one could possibly have known about Emma. And my reaction was, I forgive her. Tell her to go away. I want to hear from my daughter. And it was just an incredible moment in time, and the first shift I had on my grief journey. I continued exploring and found Mark Ireland's book, Soul Shift, which I'm sure many of you have read, a beautiful, beautiful book. And at the end of the book, he spoke of a group called Helping Parents Heal. I then reached out to Elizabeth, who was just so very, very kind to me. And it was the beginning of my journey with Helping Parents Heal. I then went on to start a group when we moved. So we left New Jersey about a year after Carly passed. I could no longer live in the community that I lived in. It was just too difficult. The memories, the trauma, the hospital, everything that was so close. And for me, one day I was in the grocery store, which I found extremely difficult. And I know a lot of parents have talked about that grocery shopping became difficult. And I saw someone that I knew, and we made eye contact, and she turned her cart around and walked away because she didn't want to face me. And I went home and I said to Tony, I can't do this. We need to get away. And we moved to South Carolina, which turned out to be the best thing I could possibly do. I know some people feel better staying in the place where their children lived, but for me, I needed I needed a fresh start. Before I left New Jersey, a woman that was friends with, I was on the driving range one day. I decided I was going to try to play golf again. And she came up to me, her daughter had passed, and she handed me a note with this little piece of paper, and I opened it up and it had the name Janet Nahavik on it. And she said to me, Carly is not lost. Carly is not dead. Janet will help you find her. And researching Janet Nahavik is how I found the name Suzanne Giesemann. And when I found Suzanne's name, again, a whole nother shift in my journey. As you saw, I called Suzanne up. I had that reading, which was just beyond incredible. It was as if I was sitting on the couch and Carly was sitting next to me. That's how amazing the evidence was that Suzanne brought forward. And at that IONS conference, I met Suzanne for the first time. Beth D'Angelo accompanied me on that great trip where we also met Eben Alexander and Anita Morjani. And one morning when we were going to one of our classes, we got into the elevator with Eben Alexander and Anita Morjani, and Beth and I held each other's hand and we were giggling like little kids, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe who we're in the elevator with. And I say one of my claim to fame is I had lunch with Dr. Alexander, and he sat in between Beth and myself and he asked my story. And he started to cry when I told him about Carly. He's such a sensitive and such a wonderful man. I also wanted to talk about, before I left New Jersey, I was seeing a psychiatrist for almost a year. I had terrible insomnia and had gone through, it was about 8 days of absolutely no sleeping when it was advised that I speak to someone. And this wonderful woman spent a year talking with me. And before we left New Jersey, she also handed me a piece of paper and she said, I think you'll really enjoy this person's books. And his name was Brian Weiss. And any of you that have read Brian Weiss's books know what just amazing validations of soul planning, of past life regressions, and of hope in the afterlife. At one of the conferences that I did go to, I did a life between life regression with Linda Bachman, who is going to be speaking to our group, I think, in August, and it was very fascinating. My dear friend, Sarah Rubel, who talks about soul planning. I met Sarah. I still don't remember how, found her on Facebook or on the internet, and reached out, and we'd become friends. Sarah was going to be visiting South Carolina, just so happened, on Mother's Day. And Mother's Day was one of my Helping Parents Heal meetings, and Sarah spoke to our group and continues to do so every year. And Sarah told me that the year before, she and her husband had visited Florida. They had always gone to Florida. And her son Scott spoke to her and told her to visit Hilton Head. And her husband thought it was a little crazy, but he got off the highway and they went to Hilton Head. And we now know that the reason Sarah did that was so that the next year I could meet her and she could speak to my group in Hilton Head. And when we did move to Hilton Head, Elizabeth and I talked on a regular basis. I knew I wanted to start a group, but I was afraid of starting a group. And she encouraged me and said, you could do this. You know, it's going to be wonderful. People will come to the group. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm moving to an area where I know no one. And I'm going to start a grief support group. I'm not a public speaker. I was a dental hygienist for 37 years. But I decided to go ahead and start that group. And on my first meeting, I think I had 15 parents come. And the group has grown. It's a large group now, and the members of the group are some of my dearest and very closest friends. I've taken some mediumship development classes, and I am not a medium, but I've had some pretty amazing things happen. Suzanne Giesemann teaches a wonderful serving spirit class, and I took the class. And I had one of my Helping Parents Heal meetings. I had a parent come, Heidi, I think Heidi's on tonight, Heidi Hansen, and her partner, Kristen, lost their daughter Grace in a car accident. And I had only met Heidi twice, and she came to a meeting. And it was the Sunday of a meeting. And I always talk to Carly, and I talk to all of the kids when I take a shower. And I said, I hope that I could help someone today, kids. Please tell me something. And I heard, as clear as a bell in my own voice, please tell my mother to do my laundry. It's gross and it's disgusting. And I kind of turned my head around and I said, who is this? And I heard, it's Grace. So I went to the meeting. I had only met Heidi twice. And I said, Heidi, I don't really know you, but I think I have a message from Grace. And I told her what the message was. And she said, wow, that's really cool, Irene. I don't do laundry, but when I go home, I'll ask my partner, Kristen. And I got a phone call from Heidi that evening, that holy message of, oh my gosh, Kristen took me into Grace's room and there was a laundry basket. It had been, I guess, about 3 or 4 months since Grace had passed, and Kristen couldn't find it in her to do that laundry. So if I can get a message, anyone can get a message. And I also had a message from another member who I was driving home from a meeting and they were just so sad. And I said, oh my gosh, Ethan, can you please tell me something to help your dad? And again, I heard, when he wears the fedora, I will come. So I got home and I called them up and I gave the parents the message. And the dad started to cry on the phone. And he told me that he was fishing the day that his son had passed. And he hadn't taken his son and he felt guilty. His son passed from sudden adolescent passing. He just passed in his kitchen with his mom doing dishes. And the dad wore a fedora hat when he fished, and he couldn't bring himself to go fishing or to put that hat on again. And he did. And I got a phone call and he said that when he was on the boat and he put the hat on, he felt his son's presence. So that was so very cool. And this is just some examples of how we connect with other parents. I am also very dear friends with a group of women, and we call ourselves the Soul Sisters 8, and we text each other, and we're on all different timelines. Suzanne Giesman introduced me to a few of those members. Tracy Susie, whose son Eamon passed. Tracy and I spoke very soon after Eamon's passing, and also Beth West, who they are both now, they were leaders of the online group and have gone on to do so much in this group. And when I spoke to Beth for the first time after I called her, she was very quiet. And I listened and she told me about Tyler. And then she said to me, well, can you tell me about your daughter? And I said, my daughter's name is Carly. And Beth gasped for breath and said, did you say Carly? She said, I had a dream the other night and Tyler was in a blue convertible. And I turned and I said to Tyler, Tyler, who's in the car with you? And Tyler said, this is my new friend, Carly. And yes, I had a couple of blue convertibles. So I know that Carly was happily riding in heaven with Tyler beside her. I mean, it's just really incredible what can happen when we open ourselves up to the possibilities. And when we think that death means nothing more than the loss of the physical body, that consciousness survives. And this is all something that doesn't just come, it doesn't happen. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of reading books. It takes listening to videos, but it also takes opening yourself up to the possibilities. There's just so much magic that can happen, and it does happen. And our kids are here. They're with us always. They're always here. They're, as Elizabeth said, they're our greatest cheerleaders, and they're all with each other. I went on to become friends with Suzanne Giesman, and I'm so blessed to be her friend. She ultimately, I guess Suzanne was traveling and I wanted her to meet Elizabeth. And she did meet Elizabeth, and at a dinner with Elizabeth and her husband, and also with Lynn and Jeff Holohan, it was suggested that the four couples, and they were including Tony and myself, go on a trip together. And we rented a catamaran in the British Virgin Islands. Now, any of you who've been on a catamaran, you have to really like the people you're going to be on a boat with. It's close quarters. And here we were getting on a boat. I had never met Elizabeth before. I hadn't met Jeff and Lynn before, and I had only briefly met Suzanne and Ty, even though we had gotten together for dinner. And the 8 of us had a magical vacation and became the closest and dearest of friends. The first night that we went out to dinner, we sat at this, we ate on the boat almost every night. One or two nights we went out to dinner, and we were sitting at the restaurant, and there was a guitarist sitting in the corner playing music. And any of you that know me know that Somewhere Over the Rainbow is a song that's very dear to Carly and to myself. And when I hear it, I know that she's close. Well, Lynn and Jeff have a song, Blackbird, by the Beatles. That's special to them. So we were sitting, having a glass of champagne. Everyone was talking. And Blackbird, he played Blackbird on his guitar. And we thought, oh my gosh, isn't that great? The next thing you know, we heard the chords change, and the next song that he sang was Somewhere Over the Rainbow. So we all just looked at each other, toasted each other with champagne glasses, and said, they're here. And it was just a great trip. And it went on to become the backstory for Suzanne's book, Still Right Here. So I know many of you have read the book, and it is all of our stories combined and the magic that went along on that trip. Then we get to the conference. I said to Elizabeth, I had been to a few conferences, the conference with Beth, an afterlife conference, Suzanne's workshops, and I just thought, oh my gosh, we have to do this for Helping Parents Heal. How difficult could it be to put a conference on? So I said to Elizabeth, we have to have a conference. And we spoke, and she said, Irene, do you have any idea what it takes to put a conference on? And at that point, Helping Parents Heal, I believe we didn't have any money at all. I know Doris is on tonight, our attorney, and she speaks all the time about this little grassroots organization that started. And I said to Elizabeth, well, come on. You know, the kids will be with us. We have to do this. So we got together and we took a pretty big financial leap to put this conference on. And we said we needed 150 people to come to the conference. The hotel in Arizona that we had the conference, it was the girl that was the planner for the conference. It was her first job. And thank goodness it was, because they allowed us to have increments of 50 people, and we would keep increasing it as people booked. And we ended up with a waiting list of over 100 people, and we were 450 people at that conference. And any of you that were there know the magic that happened at that conference. It was absolutely just amazing. And one of my dreams for that conference was to have Garth Brooks somehow sing the song The Dance. It's just such a beautiful song, and it's so memorable for so many of us, and a lot of people used it in their children's memorial services. So I got on the internet and I tried the best I could. I didn't know anybody in the music industry, and I just wrote letters and wrote to the record company and wrote to anyone that I thought might know him. And in September, the conference was the following April. That September, I said, okay, Irene, you have to give that up. It's not going to happen. And it just wasn't meant to be. The next night, I got a call from my niece in Colorado. And she said, and Irene, get Uncle Tony on the phone. I want to tell you something. I said, okay, Ariana, what's up? She said, my husband and I were going, Alan and I are going to a wedding in Nashville. And I said, oh my gosh, that's awesome. She said, yeah, one of our patients, they're both chiropractors, their daughter's getting married. And guess where the wedding's going to be? And I said, where? She said, at the home of Garth Brooks and Trisha Yearwood. I said, yes, I got my connection. So through Ariana, I was able to get the contact info for Garth's manager. And I wrote my letter And that letter and the video that Garth produced for us is on our website. And we played it that night at the opening, and it was just, again, it was just a magical evening. And everything else that went along with that conference was just pure magic. And we were just so disappointed when COVID happened and we had to cancel this conference. And we're confident that we will have it. It probably, we don't know when it will be. I don't think it's going to be next year, but we will have the conference. And for those of you who are not able to experience that magic, you will be able to experience it at the next conference. People along the way that I've met, one person leads to another. Suzanne Giesman will do a reading and ask me to call a parent, and I'll speak to that parent. And then I will connect that parent to another parent whose child's passed the same way. It's just such a beautiful web how we all connect. My very dear friends, Jenny and Dave Lyle, who are my neighbors also. One of the first meetings I had here in Hilton Head, I had put an article in a magazine, and I was so surprised that no one commented about the meeting or about helping parents heal. But a few days before the meeting, I got a phone call from Jenny Lyle, and she has 2 sons that have passed, and she asked me about the meeting. And it was when I was going to have my friend Jake Samoyedny. Many of you know Jake. He's another fabulous medium. Jake was coming to visit, and he was going to speak to our group. And I said to Jenny, this isn't going to be a typical meeting. I'm having a medium come and speak to the group. And she again did that gasp. And she actually started to cry and said that she had been looking for a couple of years for a sign from her sons to find a medium that she could have a reading with in person. And she went on to have an amazing reading with Jake, and the rest is history. Jenny moved from the island, and she's now living here in Moss Creek with me. And that's another great story. Jenny called me one day and told me that she had bought a house in Moss Creek the same day that Suzanne Giesman and her husband told me that they had bought a lot in Moss Creek. And yes, the house and the lot are next to each other. And I can look out my kitchen window and I can see Jenny and Dave, and I can see Suzanne and Ty. So it's just incredible. We live in a great community here. We have a wonderful group also called the Aware Group, and it's a bunch of us like-minded spiritual people get together, and it's just amazing. I tell everyone, find your tribe, connect with the people that know your heart. You'll find your children in that place. It's also taken some very hard work. I've done a lot of trauma work. I flew to Gig Harbor, Washington, and I did a guided afterlife connection with Rochelle Wright. Rochelle is no longer practicing, but actually my sister has taken over the guided afterlife. And you combine trauma therapy with bilateral sounds, tapping, and EMDR, eye movement, desensitizing, and reprocessing. Because for so many of us that have been traumatized by our children's passing, we get stuck in a loop. I had a terrible loop that I couldn't get rid of, and the trauma work helped me tremendously. Also, that day that you saw the reading with Suzanne Giesman, when she asked me to, after that I had gotten up on stage with her, and she did a healing for me. And she told me that her guides had told her they hadn't done this before, but that I should hold her hands. And it was the most incredible experience. I felt a whoosh. I felt a rush of energy. And Suzanne told me, now I need you. They're saying you need to go in the shower, and you need to take a shower, and you have to stand in that shower until you know that it's done. And I looked at her and I said, do I have to wash my hair twice in one day? And she said, yes, you do. So I stood in that shower and I cried and I wailed, and I didn't think there were that many tears left in me, and there were. And all of a sudden I heard, it is done. And I felt a peace that I hadn't felt before. And I also, the loop stopped. And it was just an incredible moment for me. I also, this gets a little bit touchy. Some people don't believe in soul planning. Some people don't like to hear that possibly their children were meant to leave when they did. I honestly and truthfully believe that Carly lived exactly as long as she was supposed to, that her work on this earth was done, and that she's blissfully in eternity. And my work obviously isn't done. And another one of those shifts came when I spoke to Mark Pitstick. And Mark said to me, how cool is it that Carly finished her work in 24 years and got to go home? And here we are at 60 years old, still on this earth doing our work. So it's a way of thinking of things. Do I wish she was here? Absolutely. Do I miss her? Every moment of every day. But I know she's okay. And I know in my heart, I believe that she was here for exactly how long as she was supposed to be, that she is my greatest teacher, that unless she passed, I would have never become involved with this group. I would have never met the amazing people that I have met, and I would not be able to do what I'm doing right now. So for the newbies, sometimes that's hard to hear. I really do believe it with all my heart. Some magic that I would like to share with you, especially since this is the night before my birthday. I have never shared this with anyone because to me, it is so out there and so woo-woo that I have trouble believing it myself. We moved to South Carolina in 2014. We built a house and moved into the house May of 2015. And on my birthday, July 15th of 2015, we had only been living in the house a couple of months. No one had ever been in this house. I woke up on the morning of my birthday, and I'll ask Elizabeth to screen share what I found on my night table on my birthday.
Okay, here we go. Let's see if I can do it. Okay, can you see?
So it's an angel, and it's an angel with blonde hair. And I have no idea where this angel with blonde hair, little ceramic statue came from. It says December on the bottom, which is the month that my mom's birthday is in. My mom and my husband happen to share the same birthday. I put this little angel on Facebook. I sent it to every person that I know. I sent it to every person that Carly knew, all of her friends, family. No one has any idea where, had never seen this before. And there it was, standing right on my dresser. So I now say, thank you, Carly. And I know it was her way of having this, what we call an apport, something unexplained that appears. There is no explanation for it at all. I can't explain it. I've had pennies with her birth year appear. Another birthday, I found a penny at Tony's son's house. We were visiting our grandsons in California, and I found a penny, and it was my birthday, and I was on the phone with my sister, and I said, Judy, I found a penny. And she said, oh, that's cool, but look at the year. And yes, it was 1988. The day I left for the conference, I went into a fabric box that I have. I was taking out a different pocketbook, and down in the bottom of the pocketbook was a penny. And yes, it was a penny, 1988. In 2018, or is it 19? When did Craig do the documentary, Elizabeth?
He did the documentary in 2019, actually.
2019, on Carly's angel date, February 17th, 2019. I flew to Arizona to be a part of Craig McMahon's documentary, Life to Afterlife, Mom, Can You Hear Me? I had a little bit of trepidation flying on our angel date, but I thought, okay, this is what I'm meant to do. I got checked in the night before, and I wasn't too happy that I was in like row 30 and I had a middle seat, and I thought, oh gosh, I'm not going to do well with this. And the next morning I got up and I had a notice from Delta Airlines that I was bumped to first class. I have no idea why. I had a great flight out to Arizona in first class, but when I flew back a couple of days later, I was in coach. So she wasn't able to get me in first class for the entire flight. Elizabeth met me at the airport and she came running to me saying, my goodness, Irene, wait till I tell you. She had stopped to buy a card for me on Carly's angel date. And she said to Carly, I don't have time to pick a card. I'm going to reach in. Please make it be the card that's the one for your mom. And she picked a card and opened it up, and it was a singing card, and the song was Somewhere Over the Rainbow. So it was a beautiful, beautiful, magical day.
Irene, can I just say something very quickly?
Sure.
When you move those papers on your computer, it makes a lot of noise. So try not to move. It's okay. I keep trying to figure out who's making the noise, but I guess it's the papers.
I didn't think I was. I didn't think I was moving them. Another magical moment for me in South Carolina a couple years ago, we actually had some snow, which is unheard of. One of Carly's dearest and best friends moved to South Carolina a couple years after we did, Kayla. And Kayla came over to play with Carly's dog, Linus, in the snow. And I looked out the window and I just thought, oh, Carly loved to play in the snow. And she only got to have her puppy for 4 months. And I saw a car stop and a woman got out of her car with a little boy. And the little boy started playing in the snow with Kayla and with Linus. And Kayla came walking up the driveway a few minutes later and she said, I don't know how you do this. I said, what's up, Kay? She said, the woman that stopped the car said, hi, my name is Carly. Would I be able to let my son play with you and the dog in the snow? And it was just another, beautiful, magical moment. We make a choice every single day on this journey. I wake up every single day and I say, what can I do today to honor Carly? And what can I do today to make a difference in someone else's life? And that's really what it's all about. We can't do anything about the circumstances. Nothing we can do can bring our children back to this earth. We can choose to focus on the loss, the what we're not going to have, or we can focus on the gratitude and we can focus on the love. And we can think about what can we do with the time we have left. And that's really what I would love to let all of you leave here today, that your children are still with you, that life is still worth living. There's so much magic left. And Carly's boyfriend was climbing Mount Kilimanjaro when she passed, and she did take him to the airport. Even though she was so sick, she wanted to drive him to the airport. He had planned this trip for years, and he wanted to cancel, and she said, no, you have to go. And he told me later that he gave her a hug and a kiss, and he said goodbye. And she looked up and said, Mike, we never say goodbye. We always say, see you later. And I know that one day when I close my eyes and open them up on the other side, Carly will be right there, and I will get to spend eternity in a blissful place with my daughter. But until then, I will do my best to do whatever I can. I am an open book. Anyone that would like to speak with me, please call me, reach out, Facebook. Elizabeth and I have honestly dedicated ourselves to helping parents heal. You might not believe it, but we are on the phone hours and hours every single day dealing with helping parents heal and with Facebook and arranging speakers. And I wouldn't have it any other way. And thank you so much for listening tonight. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, Irene, first of all, that was absolutely beautiful. And people do have questions, but first they're saying happy birthday to you, and that what you're saying brings goosebumps to them, and all of these other wonderful things. I just have to say that I've been looking out my window here because as you were speaking, I had 2 deer that were looking in at me. And I just thought it was amazing because I've never seen them just stand and stare. So that was pretty cool. We also had something happen with the deer right when you got here for the documentary, we had exactly the same number of deer in our yard as the number of kids who were going to be in the documentary, which was pretty amazing that day that you arrived. But anyway, let me just start out. First of all, there's a question asking, do you still cry? Is it something that happens?
I do have moments of sadness, and I will have some tears, but I don't cry like I used to. I sobbed for years. I had swollen eyes for years. I don't think that I have it in me to do that kind of crying anymore, but you never know.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I think that it's a really good thing to cry, actually, every once in a while. It certainly makes us feel so much better, and it releases so much pent-up energy. And it doesn't have to necessarily be about our kids. It could be about a lot of other things going on right now, unfortunately. And I think that we all feel like we're in the same boat. But Carol is asking, what was the one thing or time where you knew for certain that your daughter was still here, alive consciously with you?
Probably in some of the readings, but I think in the reading with Suzanne, when it really felt as if she was sitting right on the couch with me during that reading. When I opened that book and George Anderson had autographed it on both sides. He wrote the Lord's Prayer in Latin on one side, and he wrote about Carly in the hereafter. And Suzanne said to me, she said, "You're holding a book, you're calling it a Bible. It's not a Bible. I'm an author and I've autographed books, and we autograph on the right side, but this book is autographed on the left as well." And how, that to me was no question. She was right there.
That's amazing. Nancy is saying, this is so inspiring. I have a light that flickers when my sons are near, encouraging me, and it's going bananas right now, exclamation points, which is wonderful. Badisha is saying, without this group and knowing that what I now know and learning to feel my baby around me, these 5 months would have been impossible to survive. Thank you. Let's see. Paula is saying, I'm only 6 weeks out of Christopher's separation. Today is the 5th day of not crying. I miss him incredibly, but I must go on. The books, videos, and HPH is helping me heal, which is wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that, Paula. Jody's saying, Jody unfortunately got logged out and had to log back in. Every time I am in an HPH meeting, a butterfly flies by my window, which is wonderful. Nancy, thank you, Irene, so uplifting. Linda is saying, same here this morning. I was sitting outside around 4 a.m. and tiny solar lights, which had gone out, started flashing from one of the palm trees as I was talking to him. So this must have been to Sean, maybe. Sebi's mom is saying that was beautiful. Thank you so much for helping parents heal. And Rose is saying, he left memories everywhere here and loved everywhere in San Diego, with many people who love him and miss him and know him. You said that you moved due to how painful it was dealing with your memories. Did you feel you were abandoning your daughter when you moved?
Never felt that way. I knew she would be with me no matter where I was, and she wouldn't want me to be sad. And I was just, excuse me, so sad staying where we were. It was just too painful. It was the home where she collapsed and passed. It was riding past the George Washington Bridge where we had to go every single day for treatment. It was just, the memories were not memories that I wanted to keep. Those weren't the memories of Carly that I wanted, and they're not the memories that she wanted me to remember.
Well, they definitely don't want you to replay that in your mind, and that's just such a small part of their whole life. So you're right, exactly.
Well, yeah. And if I could say, when we had James von Prague speak a few years ago to the online group, the one thing he said was, a soul had relayed to a mom, a child, I've died once. Why do you make me die and relive my death every day? And that's really stuck with me. And I don't want to do that. And I just want to do a quick shout out to Ty and Brian Smith, dear friends also, that I met at a Mark Pitstick and Suzanne Giesman workshop in Florida. It was wonderful. I met them both, just great people. And also Sue Zettler, one of my soul sisters, who also lives here in Moss Creek. It's a magical place.
So many people who live there. We all have to move there.
Yeah.
Just tell everybody else they can't come.
Yeah.
Just going to take over the town. Rose is saying, this is relating to her move from San Diego. She's saying, thank you. I have memories everywhere. And just like you, hospital, etc., and good ones, more happy, joyful ones. And I am torn with moving. So thanks for answering that. And Carol's saying, I've been thinking about moving too. I get it. Deb is saying, Irene, you have made such a difference in my journey through grief over Phoebe. Thank you so much. P.S. I love my UFOs. I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah.
I guess you know what that is.
Yes.
Okay. And Jody is saying, I understand so many memories in our house and the way we live, the hospital and where my son worked. My husband and I really want to move. So yeah, it is a hard thing, but I think that one of the most important things, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, is that our kids are wherever we are. They're not going to stay in a house that we lived in. They're going to be wherever we are. So never ever worry about if you have to leave a house and move into a different house, because they will be there immediately with you. They walk beside us, they hold our hands. And I just want to say that, yes, I was terrified when you said that you wanted to do this conference, and it was work like maybe 10 hours a day for 2 years. And then the second time we didn't get to have it, but we had so much fun doing that. And I think that as soon as we have a clear idea of what's happening in the future, we'll try very hard to reschedule. But it is so nice that so many of these speakers, Irene, we're so lucky that everybody agreed to speak at these Zoom meetings, which is just fabulous. So we're very lucky that way. Let's see. So Beth is saying, I can't wait for the conference. Rose is saying, I'm getting messages from my son, Nick, every day. Thanks to HPH, the speakers, mediums, books, I have learned, and I'm getting better at being aware and seeing Nick and feeling him every day now. Thank you, everyone, Irene and Elizabeth. And it's true, once you start to understand that they are communicating with us, and that our kids on the other side are actually working together to learn how to communicate with us, just as much as we are learning to communicate with them, it makes it so much easier to realize all we have to do is start recognizing those signs.
And say thank you. Every time you get a sign, say thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Send another.
And Sebby's mom saying, where are the conferences held? Well, the first one was held, you can go ahead and just let her know, Irene.
Yeah, it was held in Arizona. Our second conference was going to be in Charleston, South Carolina. And we're not sure where the rescheduled conference is going to be. Most likely back in Arizona, we're thinking.
And I don't know if Paola is on here tonight, but I'd like to recognize her because her son Nicholas passed 4 years ago on Bastille Day in Nice. And so this is a very significant day for her. And she has had quite the journey as well. Boy, oh boy, some of the most amazing things have happened along the way that Nicholas has put in her way. But I don't know if she's on. She's usually on every meeting. She might be doing something special for Nicholas tonight. Linda's saying thank you, Elizabeth and Irene. And again, very happy birthday, Irene. Everyone's wishing you a happy birthday as well. I wanted to just recognize, if this is okay with you, one of our upcoming speakers who's going to be speaking in a very short time. Casey Gaunt is on here. And maybe if you could just unmute and say a few sentences for us about what you're going to be speaking about, that would be wonderful.
Happy to. First of all, happy birthday, Irene.
Thank you.
And sending you lots of love, and loved your talk and your inspirational words of hope. And I couldn't agree more with everything that you said. I'm very excited to speak with the group next week. I'm going to share our story. We lost our son, Jimmy, in August of 2008. He was accidentally struck and killed by an automobile walking home from a party. He was too buzzed to drive, so he thought walking home would be a good idea. But that wasn't my first loss. 38 years earlier, my father died by suicide when I was 20 years old. Little did I know at the time is that those two losses were deeply connected, and the connection started 40 years ago, or actually 40 years before our son passed. So I'm gonna share that story. I'm gonna tell you the story of our first miracle that happened 3 months after our son transitioned. And that's what launched my career, or transitioned my career from a corporate lawyer to becoming a writer, because my son was a professional writer. He was 24 years old when he passed, but he had already written 5 plays, 3 screenplays. He was phenomenal. And basically, when he passed, he put the pen in my hand and he said, look, I'm going to show you some things, and all you have to do is write them down and share them. You don't have to do anything else. Just do that, and you'll be helping me. And so that's what I've been doing. And more stories just kept pouring out from him, these incredible synchronicities, messages, and started a website, and then that led to me writing our first book with my son posthumously. So I'll tell you about that. And then if we have time, I'll tell you about the next book that I'm working on. I'm in the middle of it right now. The working title is When the Veil Comes Down, and how we can get to that place where there really isn't a veil. There is no this side. There's no other side. There's just here. And so look forward to sharing that with you next week.
Fabulous. Casey is such a fabulous writer. And I found Casey, like I found so many people. I have no idea how. I'm sure Carly put him in my path, and I have so enjoyed his writing. He's just a phenomenal writer.
Thank you.
I put his link for the meeting, which is on the 23rd of July, in the chat box. And I just want to quickly also say, do a shout out to Sarah Rubo, who Irene spoke about, because she has a talk on our YouTube channel as well. She's certainly inspiring. And if you want to know about soul plans, she's definitely the person to listen to, as well as Rob Schwartz, who's going to be speaking to us in September, actually. I'm looking here. It's hard for me to scroll through. Okay, let me see if I can scroll through. I think that Linda McCarthy's on here as well. And Linda also spoke about her book. If there's anybody else on here who has spoken. Oh, someone's asking if you have a website, Casey. I believe it's on the event invitation.
I do. And the website's called writemesomethingbeautiful.com. Writemesomethingbeautiful.com. Actually, those, again, I borrow a lot from our son. Those were the last words that he spoke to one of his best friends before he transitioned. And his friend was a budding writer. And Jimmy said, Eric, write me something beautiful and send it to me. Will you do that, please? And so that's why we use that for the website.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And obviously Judy Hancock is doing all of these meetings to help everyone heal. It's pretty amazing. She's had a very good attendance at those meetings. Irene, any closing words for us?
No, just that it's all about love, everyone. you know, let's bring more love into this world and just enjoy the ride, really. It's a wonderful life. It really can be. We'll miss our children forever, but just remember they're right here with us. And I want to thank Elizabeth for helping me so much on my journey and for welcoming me to Helping Parents Heal. I love you, Elizabeth.
I love you too. Oh my gosh. I sure am glad we love each other since we talk to each other hours on the phone every day. And it is wonderful to do this. And you know, guys, everyone, one of the best things in the world that I know that Irene and I have found out is being able to help others helps us even more. And it feels so good. And the wonderful thing about Helping Parents Heal is that it allows us all the opportunity to form our own affiliate group and to help other people, or maybe to be a caring listener, or maybe to just help out one of the affiliate leaders in your area. But I feel that whether it be through Helping Parents Heal or through any other work that you're doing in your community, being able to do that kind of thing, just, our kids are so proud. They are so proud of us. They're proud of us no matter what. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're doing something or not, but I know, again, I always say this, they're just like those dads in a maternity ward looking through the glass at their kids saying, that's my daughter, that's my son. They're doing the same thing, saying, that's my mom, that's my dad, and they're so proud of us. And they're just a heartbeat away. They are, as Casey says, the veil is falling down. There's going to be no veil pretty soon, and we're going to be able to communicate that with them directly. It's kind of hard now, but it's getting easier and easier. So thank you for being here tonight. And thank you, Irene. That was a beautiful presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here, for listening.
Sorry for the technical difficulties, but let's have everyone unmute themselves and say goodbye and thank you to Irene.
Bye. Have a good night.
Thank you,
Happy
Irene.
birthday.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and happy birthday.
Irene, have a great night.
Great
Wonderful